Hello everyone, welcome to another Monster Hunter ranking video. Today will be on the 4th generation of Monster Hunter, which is one that I personally am quite fond of, as it includes my favorite game in the series, For You. I will note that in preparation for making this video, I did fight all of the deviants besides the G rank exclusive ones. I will make mention of the specific ones I haven't fought and give my thoughts on them still, since I do have thoughts on them. I just wanted to put the disclaimer that I have yet to fight them. Hopefully, by the time I, maybe make a remake for this video, I would have fought in them so I could update my opinions and such. The video will follow the same format as my other videos, so if you want to get a more in-depth understanding of the rules, I suggest you go watch one of those ones. And let's get into the ranking. Starting with Tetsukabra. I think Tetsukabra is a pretty good monster. He is the first amphibian we fight, which is a pretty underrated, I think, group of monsters. It doesn't help that there's only 3 of them, 2 of which being introduced in 4th gen. Oh wait, no, there's 4 actually, I think, yeah, because Tetrano. But they're a cool grouping. Tetsukabra definitely feels like he's supposed to be kind of the Yankut of For You, and that he's the first monster that you fight that actually kind of puts up a fight. He has a spit ranged attack. He can throw rocks at you. He can use rocks. His roar actually will stun you. He's also pretty big compared to other monsters you fight at this point, as well as hitting pretty hard. And so he's like your first real intro into what to expect for the future. I really like his colors as well. I like the bright orange at the front, and then the blue, as well as his big old tusks. I think they look cool. I like how his fight has part breaks that actually mean stuff. Because I think his best hit zones are his face, which serves a double purpose in that not only is this your optimal damage point, but breaking the tusks will actually reduce the size of the boulders he can conjure, making the fight far more manageable. The only issue is that the face is obviously the danger zone, since that's where most of his attacks come from. To counteract this, you can target his hind legs, where upon breaking them, you'll get a instant topple, which gives you incentive to target body parts to break them to make the fight easier. And whenever monsters and Monster Hunter do that, I think that's quite commemorable. He also, I think, has some pretty good gear for his point in the game. So overall, he's a very good monster, very good monster. Would love to see him come back. Next is Drill Tusk Tetsukabra. Drill Tusk definitely feels like one of the more tame deviants. Since the only thing I can remember coming out of him is that I think he uses his rocks more efficiently, and that he's bigger. Bigger, badder, and yeah, better fighting. So nothing too crazy. I mean, his design, it's still cool. Mainly because, well, it's Tetsukabra, but with more defined features. Like his tusks have a little more edge to them, and I think they kind of have these mini pseudo tusks coming out. He has more spikes along him, and he's darker and scarier. And so he's pretty cool. I don't have too much to say that I haven't already said about base Tetsukabra, but I think he'll probably go just ahead of him for the simple fact that he's kind of just an overall improvement. He doesn't really hurt the fight. Yeah. Next is Berserk Tetsukabra. Berserk Tetsukabra is pretty cool. I don't have too much to say on him though, because I haven't fought him all too much. Because he's not really common in the quests, in the hub. But I mean, he has a cool color scheme. I do like the green and then the black that kind of fades into this very explosive looking orange and yellow. I think fight wise, he's almost the same. The only difference being that he uses like explosive rocks that can give you blast, which definitely spices up the fight. Um, but it doesn't really do anything crazy for me. I still think he's a very good monster since he doesn't hurt the fight in any way. Um, but it also just kind of lacks the weight that base Tetsukabra and his Deviant have. So he'll go behind. Next is Zamtrios. See, I really like Zamtrios, but I feel like he was kind of um, messy in his overall execution because Zamtrios, he's this very cool shark amphibian. Um, and when you first fight him, you fight him in his base form, which that includes some ice beams and some like very good tracking lunges. And overall the fight's kind of like basic, kind of normal. You notice like maybe some behavior similar to the Tetsukabra, but then he puts on this ice armor, and then the fight becomes far more aggressive. Zamtrios is far more like violent in this phase, and quicker. And so the incentive is to break his armor. Since breaking his armor, not only you can get topples and staggers, but it also opens up his soft hide to hit him again. Um, but then he just decides to inflate himself, and the problem is Zamatrios in his ice armor can be quite intimidating. He looks intimidating, and he's also fairly ferocious in this form. But when he expands himself, he kind of just loses all of that. He kind of just looks goofy, and he becomes a horribly pathetic punching bag, and that he kind of will just sit there and let you wail on him until he either dies or deflates. Um, and I think that hurts him overall. Had it just been the ice armor, I feel like Zamtrios could have been far far better overall. But they kind of just added on that little feature. I think from an ecological point of view, it's a cool addition, but from a gameplay point of view, not really. Doesn't really hit the mark. So he can go in nice. Um, but I do think he's cool. And I like his Zamites. It's always nice when you can see the younger forms of a monster. Um, but yeah. Next is Tiger Stripe Zamtrios. See, Tiger Stripe Zamtrios, I have a personal, um, not vendetta against, but personal memories because he was the monster that forced me to switch weapons because he was so difficult. Before switching to Charged Blade and 4U, was using Longsword, and I just could not take him down with the longsword. It like his attacks were far too fast, far too powerful. And longsword I feel just lacked the um, defensive capabilities to protect against those because he he's cool in that he takes Zamatrios' greatest weakness and turns it into his greatest strength. Since Tiger Stripe is in the desert, and in the desert he can't really produce his ice armor because it's too hot during the day. So instead, he relies on just completely going all in on the expansion part of his biology. And because of that, he is able to basically master combat in this form. While base Zamtrios really was slow and kind of lethargic in this form and kind of just rolled around pathetically, Tiger Stripe is very threatening in this form, and surprisingly quick. Um, and so I really, really like that. concept. I think he also has a cool color scheme. For me, the main thing holding him back is one, I think at the point you fight him, he does a bit too much damage at the point you fight him in the game. Um, and I think the paralysis being added was just a little too tacked on because he's already threatening enough, just with his physical capabilities, but giving him those paralysis spits, um, definitely turns the fight from difficult but manageable to just overall, um, really frustrating. Um, which is a shame because that, yeah, it just overall hurts them. I think the main reason they did that is because they didn't want to waste the animation they had for base Ametreus and they couldn't think of anything. I mean, if they really wanted to give him a range, I think just giving him Water Blight, just some spit would have been fine because there are already way too many paralysis monsters in for you. Um, so I think for that reason, he'll go behind base Ametreus, but he's still a nice monster overall, despite my personal qualms with him. Um, but yeah, next is Great Macaw. I think Great Macaw as a tutorial monster is pretty good. Um, One thing that surprises me with Generations, is that Generations, they didn't add a lot of monsters, but I'm surprised that, besides Astalos, I think every new monster got its own skeleton that's never been used before, which is kind of impressive despite the small new roster. I know they focused on the deviants mostly, but um, it is impressive. So Great Macaw has that unique factor since he's the only bird wyvern that has like this unique skull. It's very similar to the dog wyverns, but like has its own flair. It's a bit more lithe. I feel it's kind of like a combination of the dromes and the greats, um, and it becomes its own unique thing. Um, I also just like his design. Like he feels very real. You know, like I could imagine this being found in like the fossil record. Um, and I like the coloring, like the emerald green within the bright yellow plume. Is cool, and I like his fight. I think it's a good fight for teaching new players about positioning in Monster Hunter, as well as targeting weak points. Since Great Macaw has a lot of attacks, um, that like he has a lot of attacks that kind of just take you down, but his strongest attacks have very good windows, which gives you a good chance to dodge and position yourself. But what he also does is before he does these stronger attacks, you get the opportunity to hit his weak point, which can get you a topple, um, which I feel is a very good incentive for players. Like it helps teach them, and I think as a tutorial monster, he's up there for one of the better ones. Um, so he's very good. He's very good. Um, Next is Malfestio. So I really, really like Malfestio in design and concept. He is, I think, the most bird wyvern we've ever gotten since he's literally an owl. Um, and he's great for that. And I also love the jester motif. Um, with his with his featherings, trying to convey like a jester hat and stuff, as well as his whole kit kind of meant to be a trickster sort of vibe with the sleep and the inversion. But the fight really doesn't do it for me. Um, the sleep I don't mind, but the inversion is very annoying. I know a lot of people say it's not easy to get hit with and just to play backwards if you get hit by it, but like I'm not good enough at the game to do that. And so yeah, like while it is a skill issue, I still don't get enjoyment. Um, Also his wings are really hard, and at the point you fight him in, you usually have a weapon that doesn't have great sharpness, so you tend to bounce off his wings. And those end up being like his main weapons in combat, so you tend to bounce a lot, which just prolongs the fight. Um, One thing that is kind of funny though that I've noticed is despite being a different skeleton and different like grouping, he has a lot of moves that's shared with Rathalos. Um, if you don't, yeah, if you didn't notice, like fight Malfestio and like pay attention to his moves. Like a lot of them feel like the same animation that Rathalos does in that game, which is something that I think is funny. Because it's weird. But Malfestio like really hurts me because I really like him, but he's one of those moments where it's like amazing design, amazing concept, not so amazing fight. And so he's gonna go down in a bit boring because like I just don't enjoy fighting him. He's kind of just a monster that whenever I have to fight him, I just groan and get it over with. And I haven't fought Nightcloak. Though I'm hoping by the name it means more sleep and less reversion. Um, because I literally know nothing about him, I'm just gonna put him slightly behind base Malfestio. Since like people just don't talk about him. Like I don't think I've heard anyone talk about Nightcloak Malfestio. Um, which is a shame. Um, cause he could be good. He could be good. But I'm unsure. Next is Deadeye Yon Garuga. I like Deadeye Yon Garuga. I've recently been enjoying the Garugas far more as of late. And he's no different. I like how he and Bloodbath kind of give insight into the flaws behind the Hunters Guild, and that they are not a perfect organization at all, and that there are tons of sloppy hunters that will maim these animals and create these very dangerous monsters that kind of lash out at everything around them, and just cause these problems. Um, which is adds like a bit of a tragic element to it, because it's like, yes, Garuga is known to be kind of an a-hole monster, but you still kind of have to pity them because no animal really deserves to be maimed like that, and forced to suffer. Um, and so yeah, Garuga, he kind of he carries those elements with the scarred and like his dead eye, showing his wrath towards mankind. And I like the green highlights are pretty cool. My only qualms is that he doesn't really feel that different from Yan and Scarred. Not Yan, I mean oh yeah, Yan Garuga. And Scarred Yan Garuga. In that even to the concept, like that has kind of already been done by Scarred Yan Garuga. And so Deadeye kind of just feels like Scarred, but like Scarred in GU. With Dread Queen poison. Um, that's what it really feels like, and so he doesn't really feel unique. Um, he kind of just exists. And so that kind of hurts him. Had Scarred Yangaruga not existed, he would probably be higher, but he's probably gonna go down there. But still a very good monster, but lacks the uniqueness to make him better. Um, Next is Galavinus, who is a very good monster. He is probably my second favorite Fated 4. Because, like, whoever at Capcom, like, whoever decided to give a dinosaur a sword that can be set aflame, I hope good things came to that man, and I hope good things continue to come to him. Because Glavenus is a very good monster. And he's also a cool monster to look at since his two fights feel very different between GU and World. GU, Glavenus feels far more fast paced, and a lot more bouncy. Like, Glavenus in GU feels like very light on his feet. Like he bounces around, he's flying all over the place. Um, and he also his mechanic with the flame sack feels far more like incorporated into the fight. Like it feels like there is real incentive to target it to get that topple, since he moves around so much. But in World, Glavenus feels far more weighty and realistic, in that there's a lot more heft to his movements. Like it feels like he's being kind of constrained by gravity. And so you really feel, especially with his tail swings, where like you can feel the weight coming down on those swings, and then when he does his follow-ups, you can feel the force of him having to like drag it back to slam it down. Though it also comes at the cost that the flame sack is very diminished in importance, and that there is very little reason to target it since he is pretty easy to hit. But I think they're both good fights, and it is nice when a monster has pretty different fights amongst like the same version. So yeah, Glavenus is good, really good armor as well. I really like him overall. Um, I wouldn't say he's an absolutely love, but he's definitely a monster that I could see kind of eventually climbing that rank, in the eventual future. But he's good. He's good. Um, Hellblade. Hellblade is pretty cool. I will say he feels like a very natural progression to where to take Glavenus. In that he's given the Blast Blight, and he's also given more lethal combos. Which I feel, yeah, it kind of just makes sense. Like, if you're going to make a deviant of the monster, you want to expand on that. Um, and so Hellblade definitely feels like an expansion of Glavenus, as a variation of him. He looks really cool. The darker kind of tones, as well as the enlarged horn, and like the black blade, just looks really really cool. I know blast can be a little bit annoying, and if he gives you blast and then goes in for a big attack, like that could just that's basically a death sentence, but like it adds more spice to the fight. I think he's fair to say that he's like an overall, like he deserves to be overall higher, simply because he just does a good job of expanding upon Glavenus. Um, and he's a very good monster. I need to fight him more, to be honest. But I really enjoy him. And then, Raging Bracky. See, before I really got into Monster Hunter, and that like widening my scope, and basically when I had only played Worldborn and Base Rise, Raging Bracky was in my top 3, I think, of fights. I thought he was one of the best monsters ever, and I really, really liked him. I still really like him. I think he's a very good monster. Um, he's a cool variant, being a mutated Brachydios with a slime that's uncontrollable, and therefore makes him a danger to not only like the environment but also to like his kind. And kind of making him like a black sheep amongst his kin, which adds a bit of a tragic element, but he's a very good monster. Especially in World, that final phase, that final showdown, the duel between two unstoppable forces, very, very good. However, as I've broadened my understanding of the series, I've seen better monsters I've enjoyed more, and I fought old gen Raging Bracky, and he is not good. Like, with Whirl Raging Bracky, the way the slime worked is if you hit the slime on his body, it would drop down and explode shortly after. So it was still a threat, but it was manageable. In old gen, hitting Brachydios would basically charge the slime and then eventually blow up, damaging you, which is not a fun thing. It is. I do not like getting punished in Monster Hunter for hitting weak points. Um, and so I feel like that hurts him as well. So like World definitely gave him a glow up, but paired with old gen Raging Bracky kind of just being bad, um, and me just seeing more enjoyable monsters in the series kind of has lowered his spot. He's still definitely contending for absolutely love, but eh. And oh, Crystal Beard. Crystal Beard is so disappointing. I don't get how Capcom like managed to decide that they are going to give Uragaan a deviant and then do absolutely nothing with it. Like, he literally does nothing interesting that could make him unique. He has a few rocks in his chin, but that doesn't like that sucks because like I try hard I try so hard to appreciate Uragaan because I think he has a lot of good things going for him, but like this doesn't help him, and the fact that people people get mad that he took up a deviant slot. I'm not mad that Uragaan took up a deviant slot. I'm mad that they decided to like fail to make Uragaan interesting with the deviant was a chance to make people appreciate Uragaan, but they failed horribly on that, giving us just another Uragaan essentially, which is so frustrating. Just an Uragaan with like different colors. It's Steel Uragaan all over again. It just Crystal Beard has the benefit of not having stink. Um, it's just frustrating. It's a shame. So yeah, you're just yeah, Uragaan. Ooh, next is Stonefist Daimyo. As you know, I like Daimyo Hermitar. I think he's a really fun monster, and he's a good starting monster. And I like how Daimyo takes the fiddler crab idea, and adds it to Daimyo. Um, I like how he likes to use the smaller claw to kind of tick you away, as Daimyo is known to do, but then using that massive one to kind of finish you off. That's fun. I also love the color they gave him. They gave him so much vibrance, with some like purples and blues, and I really like that. He's really good. He's definitely an improvement over Daimyo. I just gotta. Do I like Daimyo more than Tetsukabra? Probably not. I might put him there. I don't know if I enjoy them more than the Tetsus. But I really do enjoy Stonefist. I think he does a really good job of expanding. Um, Another Carapacian that does a good job of expanding their idea is Rust Razor. See, I don't own Rust Razor as a quest, but I did encounter him just joining a quest. I remember running GU's hubs and just we all took turns doing quests. And this was one of them. And I am not crazy on Shogun. I know he's very popular. But I am not crazy on him. Though I do like how Shogun takes the idea of, Rust Razor takes the idea of Shogun being this very sharp and precise monster, and then giving him a Glavenus skull to sharpen his claws even more. Very good concept. The fight isn't too different. I think he's just a little more aggressive, and he gets the Glavenus spinny, which is cool. But yeah, he can go up there. He's a cool monster. I just don't have any crazy attachment to Shogun. Ooh, next is Gormagala. Gormagala's a good monster. I He's a really good monster. Gore Magala has done a very good job as like okay. So Gore Magala through the three games, well the four because he's in GU, but it's basically just for you, but not as good. Okay, for you, Gore Magala. He's a very good monster in that game. I love the rivalry he establishes with you. Um, and he's one of the only flagships that actually properly develops as a rival throughout the story. Especially with his climax at the very end, where he transcends, um, which I feel like is analogous with you as the hunter, since in concept you've also transcended to this point with your experience and skill. So it is a very cool dynamic. Um, I like how you fight him multiple times and he appears multiple times. And his design's cool. I like how he's this dark, shadowy figure that doesn't really fit with other forms of life. I like how his wings kind of form a cape when he's not in frenzy, which just adds to his sinisterness. Pair that with the frenzy, which is a very cool mechanic. Um, it in my opinion has gotten worse over time as a mechanic due to a few issues which I'll get into. Um, but it's still a cool mechanic, and yeah, Gore basically being the spreader of that or the originator of it. I also love his frenzy form. The way he kind of just sprouts these antennas, and you get to see these lovely purple luminescence come off of him, which just adds a bunch of eeriness to him, um, as well as his cape kind of unfurling to reveal these massive arms that he uses very well in pulverizing you. Um, I also like how you can hit the antennas to knock him out of the phase, which again, targeting weak points to get a reward, very nice. And overall, yeah, 4U's Gore is an amazing monster. GU, it's basically the same fight, with the caveat that um, he basically lacks any story relevance, which is a shame. It does not hurt him, but it does not give him really any points for me. Then in Sunbreak, he comes back. In my personal opinion, Sunbreak Gore has the best colors. I really like the shade of magenta they use on his frenzy form and how bright it is. It feels actually luminescent. And I do think the fight's pretty good. It's probably like the most tame, but it is not bad. I also like how they do try to get him in the story. Obviously, he's not the main importance of the story, so it's not the same as for you, but I do like how they kind of put in the fact that it's oh, after Fiorain gets, injured by the Kirio, they need to get, something similar to study, to get comparisons off of, to learn how to deal with this, so we go after Gore, since at this point in time, the frenzy's already known about, so it's we'll hunt him, get a better understanding of how the frenzy works to try to use that to get a better understanding of how the Kirio work. And that's cool. And then in Wilds, he also has a lot of story in the high rank, which I like. He has some intimidation factor. The main thing that holds him back is his colors feel a bit muted in Wilds. And I think his fight is the weakest Gore's ever been. And it's not because of the difficulty. It's because the new moves they gave him just don't feel fun to deal with. They're basically just really strong moves with crazy tracking that are meant to basically just kill you, which feels more just like artificial difficulty tacked on to make the fights harder, which I'm not crazy on. I think they could have like went about like the moves could be fine if they just didn't have the either the overly high damage or the tracking as like a balancing factor, but it just overall makes the fight like not too enjoyable because you're just constantly basically paying attention to that. And I'm not a big fan of really fighting him in the Ice Shards Cliffs. I feel like you just get cornered a lot when fighting him because it's such a small area. Um, and so that is by far the weakest gore rendition, personally. Um, but he's overall a really good monster. Which is, yeah, follows into Chaotic Gore, who is my favorite of the Magalas. Um, I love this like fallen angel kind of aesthetic. I love the kind of semi transition. Um, and I love like his animations of how like he looks very like Chaotic Gore looks like it's in pain and that it's suffering because it is. It's been denied transcending to its final apex. It's been denied basically the right to fulfill its purpose in life. And it's kind of a failure in that, and so it just has to live its life in suffering, knowing that it failed to accomplish its goal, which is very sad. But it works so well as like a monster, an ecological storytelling. Like it becomes a character, but also works well into the ecology, and that's great. I love the fight. I love how it combines the movesets of the two, which makes a very unpredictable monster. Um, in Sunbreak, I remember how much he kept throwing me off because he kept doing combos of either or, Shigaru or Gore, but then he would switch it up. So I would be anticipating these moves that he just didn't do, and I love that about him. Like it just it added so much chaos to the fight, pun intended, and it was really good. I also love how during his frenzy phase, he gets this like red eye in his empty eye socket, that I feel like just helps add to the rage and like the agony, the monster's in. He's great in both games I've fought him in, which is For You and Sunbreak. Very good monster. He has the best design, I think, the best fight, the best armor. He's just so cool. And yeah, no, I love him. He's a great guy. Next is Red Helm. I think Red Helm's pretty good. I love his mohawk and I love the color scheme. I like how I like how it takes Arzuros, who is well known for just being a punching bag in every game he's in, um, and actually making him semi-intimidating. Um, and that he's much bigger. He looks terrifying, um, and he can hit pretty hard. And he's far more aggressive, which helps him out. And it's just nice. I like yeah, like I like how they managed to give him some. They gave Arzuros, who's a monster that I like, but comes with the problem that he's too easy and makes like a good fight out of it. He's still one of the easier deviants. I don't think he's the easiest, but he's one of the easier ones. But I do like him. I do like him. He might go there for now. He's a good one. Yeah. Then Kechawacha. I like Kechawacha. For You did a very good job of expanding the diversity of monster skeletons, and Kechawacha is a good example of that, I feel. Um, he's a fanged beast, and he's one of the monkey kind of fanged beasts, but he's more lemur and like eye specifically than he is like the others who are more ape and like baboon, which is cool. It's nice to have that variety. I love how he utilizes the verticality of the maps, swinging around on the canopies and stuff. Um, and kind of just being a good kind of early game monster. Um, I think he's kind of goofy. I like how he has pretty fair hit zones. You know, avoid hitting the claws and the head when he's enraged, and then hit his face and tail and stuff when he's not enraged. I also like how they kind of just they didn't go crazy with the elemental thing. They just gave him water blight with the snot rockets, which I think is fun. They're silly but fun. Good design. The tapier face is an odd choice, but I kind of like it. Adds more character to him. Um, and I like how he can nullify his weakness of flash bombs by folding his ears down when he's enraged. Doesn't make much sense logically from fighting, because like how does he see unless he's like sniffing you out? But cool nonetheless. Um, what else is there to say about him? Um, I'm not crazy on the membranes he has that he uses to glide around. Again, with something like Tiger Striped and Zamtrios, it just feels like For You had the problem with just tacking on unnecessary additions to monsters. Um, that overall, they kind of hurt the monster, but they like with Ketchawacha, it's more of a just a minor critique rather than these two where they feel like flaws. Um, Only problem, Ketchawacha has not had like any presence since For You, and even in GU he was kind of forgettable. Um, so unfortunately, yeah, he's kind of like he's nice, but he's nothing crazy. Oh, and then oh, you are saved from dislike for the sake that you look cool. So Ash Ketchawacha, like he's a monster that like has really just the one main flaw that makes his fight really unbearable. I don't mind the fire. I think the fire kind of makes sense, as it's something that he can use to like flush out insects from their nests, which makes them easier to get. Um, the thing that I hate about him is the fact that I don't know why they gave him the worst hit zones ever. Like, the claws should always have been something that are difficult to hit, but his head and body now are incredibly hard. I have bounced off of his body with purple sharpness. That's how bad his hit zones are. Like, you can only hit the tail, which is hard because he positions himself to keep his rear end away from you. Um, and like, he's just so annoying to fight. Like, he's one of the few cases where I much rather the frenzy version of the fight because of the fact that he will die faster. And so I don't have to put up with the BS. Like the only reason he's not in dislike is because I think he does look cool. Um, but man, I do not enjoy him. Um, Next is Snow Baron Lagumbi. He's probably the most like underwhelming deviant besides Crystalbeard Uragon. He is a bigger, darker Lagombi that throws more snowballs, and that is about it. Um, which compared to Red Helm Arzuros doesn't seem too far off mechanically. However, Red Helm Arzuros feels different enough in mostly the fact that he has a far more unique design, and he changes the fight in that Arzuros is normally so weak, so having a fight where he is not pathetic makes it feel different enough that it matters. Snow Baron Lagombi doesn't feel much more dangerous than a base Lagombi. He doesn't feel that much more intimidating. He just throws bigger snowballs, which is not very threatening, especially since they're very easy to dodge. And so he definitely, like, and I'm not crazy on Lagombi to begin with, so he kind of just, chills there. Um, oh no, Gameth. Gameth. Gameth is another monster where amazing design, very poor fight. Gameth looks so cool. Them adding a Proboscidean to Monster Hunter was such an amazing idea, and making her like this guardian of the tundra is so cool. But like, and like her colors and like, oh, but her fight is so disappointing. Like, it's pretty much just whack her shins until she goes down, and she maybe has like one attack that can hit you back there, but it's nothing crazy. Like, she is so underwhelming, and it makes me so sad. And it's such a shame that they haven't brought her back. Like, I remember when Wilds was kind of revealing trailers and teasers and stuff. I was so hoping we were going to get like um a tundra that was going to have Gameth, but no, we got the Ice Shard Cliffs, which in my opinion are is probably one of, if not the worst tundra maps we've gotten in Monster Hunter. Which is a shame because we need Gameth back and we need an actually good Gameth fight. Because she's amazing. Like, design alone, probably top tier, but she unfortunately is held back, and I won't let my biases rank her too high. Um, and Elderfrost. I haven't fought Elderfrost, but I'm putting her above Gameth because I heard that she is a more engaging fight. I heard her back hit zones were reduced heavily, which forces you to fight her up front, which makes you have to engage more with her attacks, which gives me hope of like a more engaging Gameth fight. So I am giving her a slight edge, in the hopes that she is a more enjoyable fight. And who knows, maybe if I do fight her and she's actually really good, she might be able to go up here. But she will be here, kind of just due to like the hoping. Next is Thunderlord Zinogre. See, okay, Thunderlord far better than Stygian when it comes to a variation of Zinogre, but he's held back by a few flaws that I feel make him inferior to base Zinogre. He's still a very good monster. Like, I really enjoyed Thunderlord. However, first, which is the minor issue, is I don't really like the color scheme of the kind of the emerald green, and like the yellow. I think the yellow thunder is good, but like him actually having yellow, and the green, it kind of just like isn't the best. I wish there was more contrast with his thunder, his colorations. And then my other issue is, I don't think you're able to actually knock him out of his charge state. I think you can knock him out of his like supercharged state, but I think he's always charged up, which for me messes with the dynamic of the fight, since fighting base Zinogre's fun because there's basically a whole mini game involved of trying to see how long you can keep him from charging up, which has been removed with Thunderlord. Thunderlord, yeah, he's a good fight, still has good movesets. He takes away some of the fun aspects as well, just not looking like his color pattern just doesn't look as good as base Zinogre in my opinion. So, some may think I'm being overly harsh, but for deviants, subspecies, and variants, I pay a lot of attention to how it affects the base monster in comparison. And if I find flaws, minor ones at that, it is going to dox them. So yeah. I still think Thunderlord is one of the best deviants. But he just has a few issues, Next is Ruby Basarios. I'll be honest, I didn't even know this thing existed until like near the end of high rank, I think. Either end of high rank or like into the G rank, where I needed points. So So I was looking through my Everwood, and I saw him, and I was so confused because there was like no mention of him. Um, like and I'm confused. Like, why did they decide to give Ruby Basarios, well, not Ruby, like just Basarios a subspecies? Um, in fourth gen, like why'd they wait 4 generations to give him a variation? And such a minor one that like it is literally just a visual thing. Um, they don't even like give him. I don't even think he has new moves. Actually, he might have a thing where he like shakes crystals off, but it's been a while since I fought him, so I'm not 100% sure. Um, he looks cooler, but he also lacks Rise's Basarios changes, which makes Basarios like not agonizing the hunt. So he'd probably be a bit lower than the base one because he looks cooler, but best fights overall like it would probably be the Rise one. So, um, and now my boy, my favorite lad, Sregios is by a mile my favorite monster. This guy dethroned Devil Joe, Rajang, and Tigrex. They all have had pretty close qualifications of being my favorite monster ever, and Kungalunk, I suppose. Um, but Sregios just came in and swooped that title. Sregios is immaculate in every single way. Um, when I got blessed with him in 4U, like it just like it clicked for me, and I just fell in love with him. Like his design is great. I love his Zagadiagal feet. I love his 2-pronged tail, his comb on his head, and his very like sleek, sharp look. Um, I love his tendency to like rattle his spines as like an intimidation display. I think that's like just such a cool little minor like thing that he does, but it just adds so much character. I love how he feels like a transitional period with like the pseudo wyverns like Tigrex, and then the true flying wyverns like Rathalos, and that he has true wings, true and developed wings, but he still walks on all fours, which makes him so cool. And I love his little claws on his hands. Um, I love his sound design. I love the high pitched like raptorial sounds he makes. Like, ooh, it just rings the brain. His fight is also really good. In 4U, like I love how he's so aggressive, and like and the one thing I like is he's not overly fast, and he's probably honestly slower than monsters say like Tigrex, and even maybe Rathalos, but he makes up for it with his agility and aggression, and that he is constantly flying around you, looking for your flank, and just trying to get in cheeky hits. Which is just like it's just so good. He introduced bleed as a status, which I think is a cool status. Um, he uses it pretty well. I like how he can do it by either kicking you when he's enraged and you kind of get pricked by the scales on his feet, or when he shoots them out and makes them hazards. I think they're pretty fair. But deadly. Like getting hit by those is not fun. He also I love his hit zone mechanic where his main strength are his feet because he likes to kick you and slam, and claw at you, and they made his feet his weakest hit zone, and I love that little dance of like you need to avoid getting ripped apart by his feet, but also hit his feet to do optimal damage. And if you get lucky, you can maybe even get a topple, which just adds like a fun dynamic to the fight. I love his ecology. I love how I like how, at least design wise, he was made to be a rival to Rathalos, whom I also really like. I love Rathalos. So having like this fun little dynamic between the two, and to be honest, in 4U, he works as a good rival to the Wraths, as there's two instances at least where he directly interacts with them. It definitely has faded out over time, um, which is a shame. Um, but I hope that they kind of bring more focus on that when it comes to him, since it kind of got ignored in Wilds. Like, pretty much the only thing he had going is that he had overlap in range with Rathian and Rathalos, but he doesn't really have anything unique going with them. In Sunbreak, I was a little disappointed because he felt far less agile. His speed wasn't like anything, it didn't feel overly different, but he felt way less agile, and far more predictable. It definitely felt like he tried to go with these combos that made him very readable, but in 4U, I don't even know if he has combos. It kind of just feels like he throws whatever he wants at you when he feels the time is right, which added an unpredictable, fast-paced nature to the fight. Um, and Sunbreaks Regios kind of doesn't do that. He just kind of feels slower and more predictable, and overall, like, I still like him, but he's definitely the weakest one. And then Rise redeemed him. They brought back his speed. Well, not speed. Well, I feel like he's faster in Wilds, to be honest. And they brought back his agility. He's again constantly zooming about. And his aggression, like, he's so aggressive in Wild, and he hits like a truck. I remember how fun the Tempered Regios was when he came out. And I remember how excited I was when Update 2 got its trailer. Everyone was raving about Lagiacrus, but me, I was excited for Regios because I love him so much. And Wilds does, I feel, that does him justice. He's a really fun fight in Wilds. I also like how they gave him the ability to chuck Saratanoth at you. That just adds character. And then also his gear has, at least in 4U, it was pretty good. I remember it was pretty popular in 4U. Mainly because it's like a sharpening mechanic, which for some reason Sunbreak decided to remove from him, despite giving other monsters their weapon-specific mechanics, which is odd and very frustrating. I think Wild added it back. However, Wild is plagued by the bloody Ardian Gogma weapon plague, which makes like other weapons basically obsolete. So, unfortunately, even if he has that mechanic with his weapon, it doesn't really matter. But yeah, Regios is the best monster ever. And he's my boy, and I love him a lot. And on to another good monster, that my favorite member of the Fated Four, Astalos. Astalos is great. I like how unique he is design-wise for a Flying Wyvern. Like, Flying Wyvern are known for their unique designs and just being a very varied grouping. But the more insectoid design is great. Pair that with his like actual insane personality, like he feels like a monster who's just like has that crackhead energy, and I love him for it. His fight's also really fun. I like how it builds up in intensity very quickly. Unlike some fights where like it starts off slow and kind of builds up, Astalos in concept is that, but he charges up so quickly that like the fight doesn't feel like it takes like too long to build up. It feels like it starts slow but then immediately picks up. Which, honestly, to be fair, that kind of in lines with his theme, because his theme is very quick and sudden, which I feel like adds to his fight being like that. I also love how aggressive and violent his attacks are. Like, a lot of them are just these absolute crazy, him basically throwing himself at you, and trying to just cause as much harmony as possible with so much violence. I also like his little ecological thing where He is more particular to Neopterans and smaller monsters like dromes and greats. I think that little niche partitioning is cool because it's always great how when we have this giant cast of top order predators, having like this separation of dietary thing kind of helps make it more believable. Although Astalos just being aggressive doesn't help with the that. I also like his. I like how he likes to use his forearms so often. Um, Even though he uses the same skeleton as like Rathalos, I like how he likes to claw and scrape at you and slam down. Just adds a lot. The charge mechanic's also great. I like how he can power up his attacks, but also it makes those parts even bigger weak zones. So again, another dance of like his strongest element being his biggest weakness. Um, he's great. Sunbreak definitely hurt him a bit for me. Um, Mainly due to the fact that like for some reason they nerfed his hit zones pre-charged really bad. Like you do pitiful damage when he's not charged. And it also, in my opinion, like it feels like it takes him longer to charge up in Sunbreak, which makes the fight feel way slower than it does in GU. Um, which is a shame because Astalos is amazing. I don't know why Sunbreak decided to do that. Because in GU, his hit zones do not feel weak when he's non-charged, but it definitely feels like the hit zones get better when he charges. While Sunbreak, the hit zones go from bad to like okay. Like they don't. It doesn't feel like you're getting rewarded much from charging up. Um, so that it's just odd. It's an odd thing they did, but Astalos is still great. Um, then Bolt Reaver. I haven't fought Bolt Reaver, um, but from what I've seen, I think I'm going to enjoy him quite a lot. Um, my biggest hope is I don't like. I know he's known for like his lightsaber because I like base Astalos has the lightsaber move, um, but he uses it sparingly because he loves to be varied with his attacks. I don't think I've ever seen Astalos like spam an attack to the extent of like Rathalos or Tigrex. He loves to mix and match his moves, and I really hope Bolt Reaver doesn't just spam his lightsaber. I really hope he dishes it in along with his other attacks. And so if that's the case, then he's going to be probably one of the best monsters, like one of my favorites for me. Next is Molten Tigrex. See, the funny thing is, my opinions on Tigrex seem to be so backwards from other people's, where everyone just seems to hate on the Tigrexes, but then praise Molten. I think Molten is the worst, with by a like he has I think three major flaws that make him easily the worst. Like he's still a Tigrex, so he's pretty good, but um ugh like first flaw, giving him blast feels very weird in my opinion. Like Tigrex is known as the absolute power wyvern, and it's because Tigrex doesn't need an ailment to be successful. His whole thing is he is going against the idea that monsters rely on elemental prowess to be dominant. He uses raw strength and raw strength alone to get through his problems. So giving brute like a Molten Tigrex that ailment, and it's like ironic because this is the second biggest Tigrex that you can even fight besides the event quest one in world. Like it makes even less sense that he needs an ailment when he's so big. He should just be able to overpower his prey. Second issue, he's a rare species with very little actual information on him. I don't hate rare species, but if there is not good explanation of their ecology and their reasoning, then I get issues with them. Like, I like Abyssal Lagiacrus and the Metallic Wraths in their ecology because it's explained. Um, I know Abyssal isn't even really a rare species, he's more akin to a variant in ecology, but still, Lucent Argacuga and Molten Tigrex um, are hurt by this kind of lack of ecology. They're kind of they exist basically with nothing really known about them. Um, and then my last issue is Molten Tigrex, like I said, is huge. The arena you fight him is not huge. The arena is maybe like he is maybe takes up 1/3 of the arena lengthwise. And when he gets to his like hyper enraged state, he can travel across the whole arena in seconds. Um, which makes the fight not very fun because it definitely like boxes you in and you don't get a lot of safe spaces. Um, which I don't know. It is like his fight just it's like it's okay, but I might actually lower him because I'm thinking with Lucent Argacuga, I put him all the way in nice for his flaws, which are actually pretty similar to Molten T-Rex's. So, um, hmm, yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I mean, it's still T-Rex. Yeah, you could probably go there. Which, and I will say, like, Lucent Argacuga fight-wise has grown on me, but I don't think it's much better, um, due to its terrible ecology and giving it poison for whatever reason, making it literally go invisible. Um, okay, Grimclaw. Grimclaw is an actually really good monster. Very good variation of Tigrex. He's going above Bolt Reaver only because I've fought him, and I love him. He like the him being a mutation of Tigrex that has developed these larger, overdeveloped claws that have unfortunately like because of the overdevelopment of them, they've kind of like calcified and like ossified, and like his nerve endings can't really properly circulate through his hands, which kind of adds the fact that he can just push his body to a further extreme because he doesn't really feel the pain of doing such, which is a very, very wicked concept. His color scheme's amazing. I love these blue highlights on his wings and head. It just makes him look so cool. And his fight is really good. I like how he takes a lot of Brute Tigrex bits of his moveset, and that he still has the charging, and then he has the upright roaring of Brute Tigrex, but they've also spiced him up with his own thing, and that is, the claw slams, and as well as I think he has enhanced ranged attacks, which, it just makes the fight really fun. It might be the best Tigrex in the series. I'm unsure. I have to fight all the Tigrexes maybe in like not simultaneously, but like back to back to maybe decide that. Like maybe Molten, Base, Brute, and then Grimclaw. But like Grimclaw's really, really good. Is he actually better than Chaotic Gore? Because I love no. He's like, ooh, that's hard. That's actually harder than I thought. I think I will put Chaotic Gore over Grimclaw for now. Just for now. But Grimclaw's amazing. I love him. He's great. Oh, and on to a not so great one. Dread King Rathalos. Another monster. I just like these three are basically all just carried by aesthetics. Otherwise, they would probably be in dislike. Dread King is not very fun. I like how he looks, but him basically he has Azure syndrome where he just flies around more while also putting down hazards on the ground that he loves to fly in. Oh man, I don't know how many times he would plant down his exploding rocks and then fly into it, making me unable to hit him while he peppered me with fireballs. Um, he is probably the only deviant so far where like I genuinely like had such little fun fighting him. Um, like he is not a fun fight at all. Um, which is a shame because like Rathalos is an awesome monster, yet they've struggled so hard to give him good variations besides Silver Rathalos. Um, and Silver Rathalos, to be honest, is mostly carried by um, his World and Rise iterations. Though he still is not bad in his other ones, the other ones just didn't like do too much with him. He really didn't peak until then, you know. But like disappointing. Then on a better note, Dread Queen I think is probably the not the best Rathian we've gotten. That would be Gold Rathian, but Dread Queen is very good. Um, she might actually be better than Glavenus and Hellblade. I'm unsure, but Dread Queen's amazing. First of all, her color scheme very good. I love the purple highlight she's gotten, as well as the more kind of stand out green, like the darker brown for her membranes instead of like that grayish tan. Um, I love how like she has so much venom built up in her body that you can like see her body like struggling to like actually keep it circulate. Like it's so bad, like because her venom is stored in the tail, but like she has so much venom, it's in her like circulatory system. Like you can see it pulsing through her, which makes me very worried on like the health of Dread Queen individuals because it's like I don't think that's normal. Unless Rathian ends up being revealed to like have a poison system that circulates through the body. Maybe it does, and like that's how Rathalos has the venom in his claws. Which then I guess it wouldn't be so bad. Um, and her fight's good. It takes a weak monster because Rathian, well known for being a punching bag. She is the test dummy monster. Many like to call her the monster that people love to test new weapons and builds on. But Dread Queen, just like Red Helm, kind of goes against that, where she's a lot spicier. I like how she gets some new tail attacks. I like how she can scatter her quills along the ground, and oh man, so within Monster Hunter, you have your poison. Then you have what I like to call the venom, which is that enhanced poison that monsters usually get in like G ranker stuff. Then there's the Dread Queen venom. She and I think Deadeye Yan are the only ones who can utilize that, but that getting hit by an attack with that is basically a death sentence, I've noticed, because you die in seconds. And I love how that just adds so much risk to the fight because it makes you really have to try and like focus and like getting rid of that tail, like that tail. And it's fun. It's fun. She's a good one. Dread Queen's really good. I don't. She's very close to beating out the Glavenuses. Um, and I really enjoy her. She's second best Rathian, I would say, besides Gold Rathian. Um, next is Silverwind. Ew, another disappointing deviant. Though Silverwind is not as bad as some other ones. I like his ecology and that he's an old individual that's graying. And because he's older, he has developed a more risk-free strategy and that he likes to pepper you with ranged attacks, his little silver winds, before kind of going in to finish up the hunter once they're injured. That's cool, but not very fun in execution. Just getting peppered by ranged attacks while trying to hit him while he just kind of runs away is like kind of unenjoyable. Um, and it is definitely inferior to other Nargacuga fights. Though he's still Nargacuga, and he still has a cool design, and the fight isn't bad per se. It's just disappointing, you know. Nargacuga's had the issue where he's really struggling to. I feel like Nargacuga did such a good job as a base monster. They've really struggled to give him a proper improvement, which is a shame. And then Bloodbath. I haven't fought Bloodbath, which I think's obvious by now because I said no G rank deviants. But oof, Bloodbath makes me excited. I'm very excited to fight him. Um, Bloodbath is a Diablos, which I love Diablos. And the fact that he just like Deadeye, he's a great, or maybe she, because Bloodbath has like a blackish like blue color, which could signify that it's a black Diablos, which would be a female. But so like she, is a good example again of like how flawed the Hunters Guild is when it comes to professionalism, and that we leave these monsters um, injured and maimed to develop into these like actual threats. And like the idea that Bloodbath became so violent and so vengeful that it became like near Elder Dragon threat is actually crazy to me. I love the design as well. A bit like on the edgier side, but like I love the one twisted horn that's malformed, and like the weird coloration that yeah like might imply that it was a black Diabolos that was attacked, and like the veins that kind of like pulse through her. um and from what I've heard, the fight like gets more dangerous the further it goes on, which I like that concept of. I think that's a cool idea of like the monster being pushed closer and closer to its limit, so it goes all out on you. Very, very cool. Makes me excited. So on hype alone, she's going here. Makes me very excited. Next is Mizutsune, who's probably my least favorite of the Fated Four. He doesn't do much for me. Like cool design, I suppose. Okay fight. Pretty good ecology. I just like really don't have much to go off of. In GU, he was pretty good. Had the best iteration of Bubble Blight in my opinion. Um, and probably was his no, not his most threatening, but he was okay. And then saw like Rise Break brought him back. For some reason, took like all color out of him. I don't know why Mizutsune in Rise Break is so pale, and I also hate how going forward they removed the very obvious sign that Mizutsune was enraged, and that Mizutsune would basically change colors when he was enraged. His fins would go from a purple to a red, and they kind of removed that or toned it down in future iterations, which sucks. And Mizutsune in Rise Break also probably has the weakest fight. This doesn't feel very threatening. And then Wild Mizutsune probably has my favorite fight. Mainly because he feels threatening, and he feels fast, and he feels agile. And I remember he was pretty popular when he came out for Wilds because of his infamous back tail slam move that killed a lot of people. Mainly because they got off guarded by it and they didn't expect getting one shotted. Which at that point in time they were using like meta gear and stuff. So that was funny. I also like how they brought in. Well, okay, I'm mixed on the idea of them seemingly bringing deviants, just combining them with their base counterparts, in that I think it was cool how we got basically Soul Seer, Mizutsune, and Wilds, but I don't like how that makes the chances of deviants ever coming back very slim, since why would they bring back other deviants if they're not going to bring in Soul Seer? And why would they bring Soul Seer back if he's basically been incorporated into the base of Mizutsune? So it brings like some uncertainty with the deviants as a concept, um, which is kind of spooky. In my personal opinion, I feel like what they could just do is make it like an Alpha Dashiguma situation where the deviants like aren't technically their own thing, but they are different. Like, because Alpha Dashiguma, he doesn't show up as his own log in the Hunter's notes, but, you know, he's obviously bigger, more dangerous, and has different colors. So, like, just do that, I think. And it solves the problem with, like, without bloating roster and taking too many resources. You just simply make variations of these monsters, that can appear, that just have slight move variations, since most deviants are, at the end of the day, either slight design changes or moves, which Alpha Dashigama, it basically does that already, so I think that would be a good idea. But Mizutsune as it stands is probably around mid-tier. Yeah, probably around there. And Soul Seer, I haven't fought Soul Seer, but Soul Seer is going to go below base Mizutsune only because, like, its relevance and uniqueness has been tarnished by Wilds, and therefore there's less going for it, compared to every other deviant I have yet to fight, where they all have unique things going for them. Soul Seer does not, and that hurts it. Oh, also, why are you go down there? Next is Celtis, which Celtis is cool. First non-secret boss Neopteran, and is the starter for 4U. I think his design's cool. I love the sexual dimorphism with the male and the female, and I like how, despite the very apparent sexual dimorphism, you can still tell that they're the same species by looking at, like, the more, like, basic traits of their morphology, and I like that. My issue with Celtis comes from the fact that I don't think he's a good tutorial monster. In that, one, he flies, which can be annoying for new players, since that is kind of like an alien thing for them at this point, and flying monsters, at the end of the day, aren't as common as terrestrial monsters. So having the first monster be that sets up, I feel like, false expectations. Him also giving defense down, I feel, is a bit much for the first fight. Like, you don't want new players to think that the game's going to be too difficult. So having their already minuscule defense even lower, I feel like is overly harsh on them. And I don't think Celtis really teaches about many mechanics. Like, he really only teaches about mounting. And that you can get his horn stuck in the rocks, which is kind of more of a niche thing that isn't guaranteed to happen in the hunt. Same with the mounting. Players might not discover that during his fight. So he's not a bad monster, but I think he's a bad starter monster. So he's probably going to go maybe around there. But Celtis Queen, she is a good monster. Love her design. Love how she feels like a tank. With her little husband being a kind of a turret on top. I love their dynamic where she basically, she calls him in and they work together and they get new attacks because of that. I like how when pushed to her brink, she will sacrifice her husband to basically keep herself going. That's an interesting dynamic. And the fight is fun. The fight is definitely fun. I feel like she's a bit too easy on her own. She kind of is reliant on the Celtis to be overly threatening. She can get you occasionally on her own, but, like, she's kind of, like, usually when she's on her own, that's just free opportunity to try to break parts. but she's a very good monster. I really like her. Um, Next is Desert Celtis. See, Desert Celtis has the benefit in that he is not a starter monster, and you fight him with the experience of a player who's gotten through low rank and high rank and going into G rank. So you at this point are already experienced, you already know the mechanics of the game. So Desert Celtis is free to work as Celtis does. I think the design is better. I like the two horns, and two horns are better than one. I like how, they're in the desert now. I don't know how much sense it makes for him being so good at burrowing, since he doesn't really look developed for that. Though it is not like that is more of a nitpick than an actual criticism. They gave him paralysis, which I think him having paralysis is fine, but like, yikes, paralysis is really common in 4U's G rank for some reason. He is a really good monster. I feel like without having the weight of being a starter monster, he is really good. And I really like him. And then Desert Celtis Queen is even better. She kind of fixes the issue where base Celtis Queen, very cool, but unfortunately kind of is overly reliant on base Celtis. Desert Celtis Queen doesn't have that issue, where Desert Celtis Queen, she is very capable of fighting on her own, and she hits hard. I also like how she actually has a different tail pincer that is longer and more elongated to allow her to like actually penetrate into the sand to forcibly grab one of the Desert Celtises, which then turns the fight into a very fun challenge. And that is one thing that I also really love about Desert Celtis Queen, is I really like the difference in relationship she has with her underling. In that, with base Celtis and Celtis Queen, it felt like the Celtis was completely willing to fight and die for the Celtis Queen. The Celtis Queen isn't very unkind to him. He kind of willingly comes towards her and pairs with her, and she only really mistreats him if she's on the brink of death, and he gives up his life to keep her going. And I like to think about that as that it's basically like thinking, okay, what would be more preferable? Both of us dying, or you dying, which gives me a chance of continuing on? And it definitely makes it feel less of an abusive coupling. Well, with Desert Celtis Queen, you can tell that there's a lot more force involved. Not only does she violently dig Celtis out of the ground and forces him to basically bond with her, she will also just shoot him at her once his use has been... Not shoot him at her, she will shoot him at you once his use has been... once she's done using him. Which, if that doesn't sum up an abusive relationship, then I don't know what does. And the fact that, like, right after, yeah, she'll just replace him. He as well will, she as well will eat them, which, I just think, yeah, desert life is not for the weak, and it just creates, I guess, far more aggressive, bugs to deal with that. But Desert Celtis Queen was a highlight of like mid G rank for me. Her and Diablos were highlights for me, and well, Katakor is like the intro to the end game. Then Otel Ka, I really want to like more. Like, her design, very cool. A Pharaoh Mantis, such a cool concept. Like, such a cool design. Like, look at her. You can't... I don't think anyone can actually hate on the design. Like, the design is amazing. My issue comes into the fight in that she has three phases essentially. However, the three phases drastically compare in quality. Her first phase is very underwhelming. You basically go in, and this is before she pulls out any toys, and you just fight her. And on her own, she is a little pathetic. She kind of just fights like a slow Nursilla, which is not a good look for final boss of a game. Though thankfully that phase isn't too long. I mean, it's still long enough where you can get a part break before even second phase, which is kind of crazy. Then she pulls out the mech, and the mech is cool, which it drastically changes up the fight. It makes it go from just fighting a normal monster to, oh, it feels like I'm actually fighting something akin to an Elder Dragon now. I also like how you can climb up and break apart her mech, make it collapse on her, and that's fun. And then like she kind of switches between her phases every once in a bit, but then her final phase, which is the phase that you usually kill her in, is third phase, where she pulls out Dragonators and a wheel and just starts throwing that stuff about, which in my opinion is probably my favorite phase. It feels like the most dangerous. It's the only phase I've carded in. And it's because sharpening while Nursilla pulls out 5 Dragonators is not a smart idea. Or did I say Nurs? I meant Adelka. Sorry, Adelka. But yeah, like, she feels more threatening in the final phase, and it definitely feels like you're fighting her instead of the mech. Which makes it a little more engaging. Though, like, I don't know, the quality differences kind of hurt the overall fight because they still have to flow into each other. And so the pacing's a bit meh. Especially since she'll sometimes, like, go back to phase 1 if you break the mech too quickly. And it's like, But she's still a very good monster. I just don't think... I think if she was more consistent, she would be higher. Next is Najarala. Poor Najarala. Najarala definitely was an afterthought, only created when Capcom realized that they had wasted so many resources. Not wasted, but spent so many resources on bringing Dalamadur, and didn't want it to go to waste, so they're like, let's make a monster that can actually be fought in other places. That's more akin to a normal fight. Like, and he is cool. Like, I like him. But his fight is very mediocre, and he's so forgettable. Like, especially in 4U, ironically. Like, I feel like he has more presence in GU than in 4U for some reason. But, I don't know. I like his design. I like how his face kind of reminds me of, like, an ogre. Or like a demon. And he has this very impressive, like, hood. It's not really a hood, it's more like a bunch of plates. And I like the scales being used to kind of stun you. As well as him being able to, like, scatter them and then blow them up with, like, vibrations. I think that's cool. I like the paralysis bite. I think it's a good punishment for you not being careful. But he's very, very forgettable. He's probably, like, he's probably okay. He's probably an okay monster. I'm not crazy on him, but then Title Najarala. Even, like, Title Najarala, one, I don't get why they, out of everything they could have done, they decided to put Najarala in the snow. It just, it's, I guess, like, if you associate him more with the coastal area than the actual snow, and, like, he's more, like, aquatic, that, I guess, is a better outlook. But I don't really enjoy the fight as much. It feels like he likes to avoid you far more and rely on his ricocheting water scales. And that he'll scatter his scales around, and then he'll shoot water, and it bounces off, and then it hits you. Very cool move, but it's annoying when he doesn't want to engage with you and instead just wants to rely on that. And And for some reason, it feels far harder to escape his coils than it is base Najarala. So he's probably gonna go in a bit boring. Um, Unfortunately. But ooh, yeah, we got a great Nursilla. I love Nursilla. Nursilla's great. Temenosarans, very cool group of monsters. And Nursilla's probably my favorite of them. Um, I love her use of the environment. I love her ecology. The fact that she prefers to hunt Gypsaros to then skin them and wear them is just so cool. And then the fact as well, it's like she accumulates so much poison that like it creates stalactites on her that she'll accidentally use as weapons. Um, in that she kind of just they'll just drip venom or not venom. I think it's venom in G rank, but she'll drip poison um, onto you, which is just funny because like it does not even seem like she does it on purpose. It just seems like that just happens. Um, I love her use of the sleep ailment in that she purposely will try to do that to get an opening for her biggest attack. And that's one thing I liked about Nursilla in 4U is she feels far more like she feels very intelligent as a monster. It feels like she uses her moves pretty intelligently. She definitely tries to get you in good positions to pull off harder attacks. Like she does not attack recklessly, I feel. She'll use her webs to get an opportunity to sting you, and then once you're asleep, and she knows she has a guaranteed opening, she'll then use her biggest attack. I know she'll also use her biggest attack if she stuns you, or if you're kind of just being not very smart and just giving her an opportunity to do it. But she feels calculated, and that just adds to her character. She feels like a smart monster. Really like the design. Who just she's such a joy to fight. Wilds, I feel, toned her down far too much, in that she doesn't feel nearly as acrobatic. She doesn't feel as smart as a fighter. Um, the only thing I'll give her is she feels more like robust, and that Nursilla in like 4U and in GU gets toppled very easily. In Wild, it seems she's a bit more sturdy. Um, though I much rather Nursilla being kind of a glass cannon than Nursilla being not nearly as fun to fight. I will say that I do like how they made her the first frenzy monster you encounter in the story. I like how they used a fourth gen monster to do that, since the whole plot line is basically like an homage to 4U, which honestly is a reason that I like Wild so much is its connections to 4U. I know people don't like how much it piggies back off of 4U, but I'm a sucker for it. So, and Ursula is great. Um, where does she go? I think she might go all the way up there. Yeah, I think that's good. Then Shrouded Nursilla. Okay, Shrouded Nursilla is a very kind of unfortunate thing in that she easily could be one of my favorite monsters if she wasn't so baffling from an ecology perspective and logic. Um, I love the trapdoor spider move they gave her, where she burrows underground to try to snap you with her jaws. Um, and while I like the web swinging, um, I don't like how she does it in an area where she literally can't. It's physically impossible for her to do it, but she does it anyway. She breaks the laws of physics, and I hate it. Which is a shame, because like, had they not just given like, well, like she could like they could have even coded it where she'll only do it in like the more cliffy areas, so like it doesn't break immersion. You could like maybe think of it. It's like, oh, she's using the cliff to swing around. But it it just doesn't make it breaks the logic. And then also her wearing Kezu skin um doesn't make sense either. She's only found in the desert, which Kezu isn't found in. Like, if they made it where like she could also be found in the Sunken Hollow, and like also the desert, then I don't think anyone would have a problem because Kezu can be found in the Sunken Hollow. So they could make it where it's like, oh, she goes there to hunt Kezu, but she prefers desert, or there's a reason she has to be in the desert. Or alternatively, instead of Kezu, like, because I think the whole reason they wanted the Kezu thing is because she has paralysis in like on her back instead of poison, and I think they wanted a reason behind it. But if they were gonna do that, but keep her in the desert, why not use Gendrome? Just say it's Gendrome hide. Not only would that give like a cool like desert camo vibe, but Gendrome's in the desert and has paralysis, or even Cephadrome. That's another paralysis monster. I feel like they literally just did Kezu because Kezu's more popular, which is stupid in my opinion. But fight wise, her fight's amazing. I like how they didn't get rid of the sleep, they didn't get rid of the poison, but they added paralysis, which I think is a good usage of the paralysis since she only can afflict it when she's doing her Spider-Man move. And even then, it's not like she targets you to hit you with it. She uses the spider web as a positioning thing. But if she does hit you, she capitalizes on that opportunity to get a good hit in. And again, that fits with her being smart, and I really like that. So despite her flaws, I still think she's better than base Nursilla. And like, if it wasn't for the ecology not making sense, she could easily have been up here. But she's held back by not making sense. And now Shigaru. Shigaru, I really like Shigaru. I love how you go from this dark, sinister looking threat to what look like this angelic being. And what I like as well is that, you know, Monster Hunter, a lot of the Elder Dragons get seen as gods and stuff, and Shigaru, you know, he fits into that. But what I like is Shigaru is like a false god in that he, despite looking angelic, despite literally looking as if he was sent from the heavens, he is anything but angelic, in that he brings nothing but death and destruction in his wake, and wipes out all life near him. But what I like about that is like that it's not like Shigaru is evil. Which is the thing is like I like when you're able to make these like stories to anthropomorphize the animals in Monster Hunter, but then also understanding that that's false, right? These stories aren't true. These are what people simply thought of, similar to how us humans throughout our histories have associated animals with like deities and like thinking certain animals were gods or like physical embodiments of the gods. Shigaru, I think, does a good job at that, and like he's like that, but he is just an animal going about his life cycle. Like Shigaru is just trying to continue his lineage. Though to most it would seem like he's a malevolent force trying to wipe life out, which is just unfortunately a byproduct of his life cycle. I also like how, at least in For You, he is the same Gore, like he is the Gore that you fight throughout the entirety of the story of Low Rank, and so that rivalry, I love how it reaches its climax, where Gore literally ascends while you figuratively have ascended, and so it is a clash of ultimate foes that ends with the sky clearing, and the world being saved. Until High Rank, where we find out that the world isn't saved because Frenzy's still a thing. But besides that, you know, the Low Rank story just is really good on that. He's also good in Sunbreak, I feel. Like, I think he lacks basically any narrative weight, and he kind of just exists. But he's fun. And I also think it's funny how in GU he's the final boss of Low Rank again. Even though there's like no story reason, I don't think. So that's just funny because it's like they reused him. I guess he's just so peak. If I had to say, like, Shigaru, has the same thing with Nargacuga in that he basically gatekeeps absolutely love. Like he's on the brink of it. Um, he's an amazing monster, and I hope Wilds doesn't mess him up. What's next? Orochi Kirin. Orochi Kirin's pretty good. Like he's better than base Kirin, I would say. I feel like he has better hit zones. Ice is far more tolerable than Thunder. Better color scheme. I will say Kirin as a monster is also like grown on me a bit. So Orochi basically just being better than that is also helping him out. Only problem is he's like really rare to fight. Not only is he just rare, but he's also I think a rotational quest, which means you're not even guaranteed to fight him all the time. But he's cool. I dig him. I haven't fought him a lot, but I do enjoy the fight whenever it happens. I think that's a good spot for him. He's a nice monster. I don't love him or anything, but he's a good improvement over Kirin. Oh, Darren Moran. Just like in my 3rd gen video, the Morans I don't really like. Design wise, I think they're both phenomenal. However, I don't like them in that they are fights that are very obviously designed for multiplayer, and like I am aware that is the case and I should be lenient, but like I don't enjoy fighting them whenever I fight them. They are both such slogs, and they're just both really unfun solo. And so like I dislike fighting them. And so it's a shame, because if the servers are still up for 3U and 4U, like then maybe they would be higher, because I wouldn't be forced to do it solo. But then Dalamadur. Dalamadur has so much presence. Like he visually is one of the most impressive things I think Monster Hunter's done. And he's so cool. I love his design. But his fight is like barely a fight. It's basically you just hitting him and then him occasionally shooting out a laser. Which is a shame. It's a shame. Because he's so cool. Like, I remember how excited I was to fight him and how disappointed I was by the fight itself. Because it just kind of disappointed me. I still think he's a really good monster, and I love the weight he's held despite not showing up in like over a decade. In that, like, you know, the Rotten Vale being created from the carcasses of Dalamadurs, or at least relatives of them, and then Wilds also bringing Dalamadur in the Grand Hub, having a skeleton of him. Like, it makes me think that they want to bring him back, but they're very afraid of it being another Zora Magnaros thing, where it's like, ton of resources spent on something that sucks. So, Dalamadur, like, it could be just biasy putting him in very good, but I still like Dalamadur. Shaw, I haven't fought yet, but I think the color scheme's worse, so he'll just go down there. And Gog Malzios, I'm close to him in 4U. I think I'm 3 quests away from him. So I haven't fought him in 4U, but I fought him in Wilds. And Wilds, at least, Wilds Gog is interesting because there's 3 phases, and the 3 phases each feel like different things. Like, the first phase feels like mostly like a proper quest. Like, it most feels like a proper like hunt, where you go in and you and the monster just trade blows. Then phase 2 feels more spectacle, where it's like, well, yes, you and the monster are still fighting. Gog isn't really moving, you're not really moving, and the whole point of that phase feels just to see the Elder Breaker blast him in the face. And then third phase feels like a mix of both, where it's definitely more of a fight than second phase, but at the same time, the whole thing is really just to see his Eschaton-esque nuke, and like suppressing that, and then like trying to get the proof of the hero to play and stuff, and it feels very like hype, like very like trying to like hook you. Um, my problem with GOG really in Wild is that I don't mind any of the phases. I do think the third phase is a bit excessive with one him in the air firing the globs. I feel like he fires way too many globs that basically cover the whole arena and really remove your chances of knocking him down because you're so busy not blowing up. And I think it's really weird how they decided to bring an Eschaton-esque mechanic back, since Eschaton, while not a terrible mechanic, was very criticized for being a DPS check. So I would not have thought that the final big addition to the game, monster-wise, would add a mechanic like that. I will say, the mechanic is far less dangerous than Eschaton. I don't think I've ever died to not... I think the only time I've died to not suppressing GOG was the very first time I fought him, where I didn't know what I was doing, and so I wasn't trying to do as much dragon element as possible. I was kind of just admiring the fight. But ever since, I haven't had an issue with it. And yeah, so he also looks really cool. I don't really like how Wilds though like kind of took away a lot of like the tarness. He looks far more like a normal dragon. Like you see so much more of his actual body, and I feel like that takes away from like the spook factor. Um, but that is a very minor criticism. He's still a very good monster, but he's probably maybe there. Um, I think like a good example of like how to do spectacle right would be something like Raging Bracky, where Raging Bracky has the spectacle, but it's still a normal fight for literally the whole thing. Like it's just a normal fight that doesn't go too crazy. Um, Another example I think would be something like Fatalis. I know some people don't like the head break mechanic, but I think that is a good mechanic in that it still fits with the energy of Monster Hunter, where you want to break apart to weaken a monster. And then, so, like, I think those are better than, like, yeah, GOG and Elatron having their things. But GOG might go higher with For You. He might go higher or he might go lower. I'm not sure. And then, oh, Narcarkos. Poor Narcarkos. Okay, I'm going to say Narcarkos has to be, like, the most forgotten about Elder Dragon, despite not being that old. Like, you don't hear anyone talk about Narcarkos. I've never heard anyone really say good things about him or bad things. And I think that literally just stems from the fact that his fight is so forgettable. Like, not only is it a really fast fight, like, I fought him in all three ranks, and in all three ranks, he is such a forgettable fight. Like, I think it stems from the fact that he doesn't do anything crazy, and he kind of just dies really quickly. That you can't really build much up with him. His death animation's cool, but that is really the only highlight. And I like his mechanic of using monster heads to do, like, elements and ailments. Like, I think he can use, like, a Lagiacrus head, like a Rathalos and Brachydios one. Like, that's cool. I hope with cephalopods being a official classification now, Narcarkos could come back. But I don't have my hopes up, and I also don't know how they would make him better, since he's not even like that old. Like, it's not even like his fight is just janky. It's just like the fight itself is just so boring that I'd be surprised if they could spice it up. Aesthetics though, like, are top tier, so he can go the top a bit boring. And last one is Valstrax. Valstrax is cool. I think everyone can agree that Valstrax is cool. He's a bit over the top, yes, but like, he's cool. He's not my favorite iteration of Valstrax, but he's good. I really enjoy him. I like how he was one of the first monsters to start using the Gore Magala skeleton. I think besides Gore and Gog, he was the first one after for you to use the Gog's, I mean not Gog skeleton, the Gore skeleton, and he does a very good job of it. I do appreciate the skeleton in that it allows monsters to have more exaggerated weaponry, and Valstrax is a great example of that with his jet wings. Um, I also, yeah, I think his fight is good. I like how GU changed the high rank story just to make Valstrax part of it. Um, I think that is cool. Um, his design is like, it's. I think it's pretty cool. It's not my favorite, but it's pretty all right. And the fight is good. It's not my favorite Valstrax fight, but it's a good fight. Um, I'd probably put him like around here. I think. He's a very good monster. And I enjoyed fighting him, but like I said, he's not my favorite Valstrax, and yeah. So and then now, I think it's just a case of making any last decisions. Yeah, you two I genuinely dislike. Um, are any of you? Hmm. I might genuinely dislike Ash Ketchawacha. I think like it is just not fun to fight at all. And Ruby Basarios, like, well, I prefer Rathalos as a monster overall to the Basarios. I think Ruby is just less agonizing than Dread King. I think I also just dislike Dread King. Like at least for something like Azurathalos, he has new gen changes, and he just isn't as bad in old gen. Like him in 3U is not bad at all. Um, and yeah, Snow Baron, boring. Yeah, you and then Malfestio. Might actually go above Title Najarala, and then Arcarcos, and yeah, Kichawacha. He's cool, but he's kind of forgettable. You're cool, but you fail. I feel as a starter. Najaral is cool, but also forgettable. Um, Tiger Stripe has a he's a bit flawed, and he's not even really a bit flawed. I think I might just prefer base Zamtrios. Molten Tigrex, still a Tigrex, although, does Red Helm go above? No. Orochi Kirin might go above him. Yeah, Zamtrios, Mizutsune. Which one do I prefer fighting? 4U Zamtrios or Wild Mizutsune? You know, that's a toughy one. I feel like you're just a good monster. I don't have many strong opinions, but you're just good overall. Gammoth, it's the highest I can put you without being delusional. I think Celtis Queen is a very fair monster of holding the top spot of nice. The Dalamuders carried heavily on presence, but they're still, I think, really good monsters. These two deviants, yeah, kind of failed to expand on their concept, but are still good monsters and good fights. I think Deadeye might be better. Great Macaw, great starter with a good design. Desert Celtish, that's a great monster overall. Berserk Tetsukabra. I might actually put him back there. I think I prefer these guys. And then, yeah. And then, yeah. Atal Ka, you're still... Yeah, you could be better. Desert Celtis Queen, yeah. Do I want to put Dread Queen over Glavenus? That's still a hard one to say. Like, I think Glavenus is better than base Rathian. But Dread Queen is just, she's really good. I guess I'll put Glavenus in the top for now. And then Thunderlord, well, a decent downfall from base and Ogre, still a good monster. Then Valstrax, Valstrax is a good monster. I just prefer, I think, Actually, no, I prefer Valstrax over Gog. I think I prefer Gog design-wise, but I think fight-wise, I prefer Valstrax, and their Nersillas are amazing monsters. Actually, am I so bold as to put them ahead of Raging Bracky? You know what? This is gonna be crazy, but I think no, no. Raging Bracky he's really good, especially with that final phase. Um, I think overall Nersil has a better track record, but his highlight I think elevates him. You know, Gore and Shigaru. Gore probably, yeah, Shigaru's probably better, mainly just due to fight and like that, like in the design, like they're very comparable though. They kind of go hand in hand. Like it wouldn't feel fair to put one in a different rank from each other. Chaotic Gore is just better though. Astalos, Bolt Reaver, yeah, kind of hype. Also kind of due to hype. Grimclaw is also just amazing. Do I want to put Grimclaw above Chaotic? Grimclaw was just so good, and he looks so cool. No, I'm gonna put Chaotic. I have more experience with Chaotic, and Chaotic's great. And then Sregios, no one could ever dethrone you. So that was my 4th gen tier list. I hope you enjoyed. If you did enjoy, maybe consider liking, commenting, subscribing. I'm always happy to hear your guys' opinions on monsters and stuff and the generations themselves. And I really hope you enjoyed this video. Bye-bye.